Hello, thank you very much for tuning in to this week's reads. My YouTube channel is James13 Wicca, in case you're seeing this video somewhere else on YouTube. For the main part of the read, I'm using Astromatrix Tarot by... I bring my blank. I don't know. Is this the one that's from... The website in the back is Astromatrix. Some of these... They come forward in different ways. I don't know if this one had a creator or if it was listed that way, but there's astromatrix.com, nope, .org. Check that out if you're interested in this deck. I want to say this is one of those that doesn't list the creator, but I could be crazy. Supportive Oracle Cards, Your Clairvoyant Oracle Cards by Belinda Grace, illustrations by Elaine Marzin. On the back is rockpoolpublishing.com.au is an apple, use an umbrella. And of course the dice. You get the dice from the Dice Shop by Math Art Fun. I don't know if it's showing up there. Hopefully it's showing up. I'm going to try to do this. I have to get my ducks in a row to do these things differently, but for right now I'm going to keep doing them the way I was. But Alex, I explained that in other videos. 22-sided dice for the major arcana. 22 I substitute for the 0. 14-sided dice for the minor arcana. I use a 4-sided dice to choose the element. Boom. Alright, that being said, if you'd like a reading from me, shoot me an email, jamesforastral@gmail.com. This is james4astral@gmail.com. If you're interested in the donation information, that's below, same email. That being said, let's go on to your reading. Hello, Gemini! Thank you very much for tuning into this week's read. These readings are valid for when you come to them. That being said, what do we have for Gemini? It keeps like rolling through my brain, so I feel like I'll just spit this out so I can get past it. Gemini, very smart. I feel like you guys are a lot of the time underestimated. The trick is to take that intelligence and create tangible results that you want in your life. I don't know why this is just pushing through so strongly, but I feel like we're trying to set the stage for something here. So it's kind of like, yes, you can see a lot. Yes, you're very intelligent. You can see how to do it, where to do it, when to do it. You can do all these things, but it's like actually making it happen so you get that result in your life that you want. That's where we're going to gear this towards. It was very strong when I was like shuffling through. So it's like even when there's disappointment in your life, I feel like you're kind of like, all right, but I could change it. It's not about seeing it. It's about application in a way that actually suits your life and that you actually don't feel like it's running your life for you. Because you can also see, I feel like Gemini, you very much are on point with seeing like, certain versions of making it happen are just overbearing. And you don't want to choose an overbearing path, clearly. But how do you make this happen in a way that's actually truthful and actually can happen for you in a way that can serve you down the road? You're very intellectual. You need something that keeps your mind going. Not in a way that traumatizes you, but in a way that serves you, Okay, so I know we're going into something here. And there is some disappointment we're starting off with, but they're like, yeah, but this does not hold Gemini down. There is some disappointment, but this does not hold you down. This is a moment for you to kind of go, all right, don't like it. What do I need to do? Because we're starting right off with that. This card kind of makes me feel like Gemini, like you can see a lot. This is one of those cards, it's an underestimated card. It's very good at gathering information, figuring out there's more here than meets the eye. This is also that card that reminds me of you in the sense of like, maybe I don't understand everything happening right here in front of me right now, but I can figure it out. Give me a minute. I'll search it down. Give me a minute. I'll find out where to go with it. I may not get it all in the same moment, and in fact, I'm going to dare to say Gemini might be like, you know what, I didn't understand why that was significant at the time, but it did get my attention. And then later on down the road, you're like, you know what, I remember that now, and now I can apply it here. That worked out to my benefit. I do feel like you're intelligent beyond your own awareness sometimes, kind of where just like part of your brain is picking up information and gathering it, and you're like, that makes sense for some reason, but I don't know why. And later it's like, oh, yeah, this is where I can use it. Like, it's like you're intelligent beyond your own understanding. Is that true? Am I making that up? I don't know. Tell me if that's true in the comments, because I feel like you guys are like that. Like, you are very intelligent, but sometimes you're not even aware of how smart you are. You're just like, oh yeah, like part of my brain was getting that, but the other, it wasn't telling the conscious part. Like that's nice. Like it's the subconscious was putting it together, and the conscious was going, I don't know what's happening, and then the subconscious pushes it forward, and you're like, oh yeah, I totally did, yeah, totally. Is that right? Am I right with that? Let me know. So as we keep moving forward, currently there's a moment of disappointment, especially because you've been gathering information and you thought you were doing really well with something, and you were trying to hold yourself to some standards that maybe weren't really comfortable to you, but you felt like you had to do that. And you did the best you could with it, but now we're hitting this like, I did what I was supposed to moment, and it's not working out the way I thought it was going to. Okay, so what do you need to do with it is the question. Because we need to kind of like, all right, I feel like we're in this moment where I'm like, this isn't quite where I wanted this to be. This doesn't seem like this is quite right. Death and the 10 of Wands, we got to bring that back. The Death with the 10 of Wands. And don't get caught up in the gender. Whatever gender you are, I feel like this is talking about you taking the reins and maybe making some decisions that other people don't like. You know where to take this, and you can make this happen. So this might be a moment where it's kind of like, maybe I can reshape my situation. And other people may not like it. And it also might put it on a like an egg timer, or it might have an expiration date, if you will. It might have a, what do you call it, a shelf life. But maybe that can serve me as well. This this happens. I don't feel like I'm that old, but I'm almost 50. But I'm like, I don't think of myself as that old, but there's a lot of references to my own life that come through every now and then. There was a job that people didn't really want. They didn't want to move me forward. And I bent over backwards. I did all the rules. They wanted, I did. And then they just kept passing me by. And then I knew it was not going to be a popular move, but I pushed, and I did get HR involved. That's a whole nother story. But I got what I wanted. I also knew at the time, and I feel like you're good with this, I knew at the time that like it'll go well for a while, but there'll be a fallout at some point for the way I did it. And I remember thinking that when I got it. And I remember knowing it and being like, all right, well, I'll deal with it when I deal with it. I feel like you're good with this. Like you kind of can see ahead, like, yeah, there'll probably be fallout, but I'll use it for now. And it did happen that way. I had that job, that position for like 3-4 years. And it fell apart, and I kind of knew it was going to happen the way it was going to happen. Like people wait when they're mad that you made them move things forward and they didn't want to do it. But it served me, and it moved me ahead, and it got me what I wanted. And it did create a stepping stone for me to move on to my next chapter in my life. So at this point in my life, I look back and I don't see it as a bad thing. While the transition was happening, I don't know if I really liked it that much, but it served its purpose. The reason I'm bringing this forward, because it's a good analogy for it in my opinion, you can kick this forward. It may have a shelf life, like I just explained that happened in my own life. But just because it has a shelf life, you like change anyway. You need new opportunities, and it may kick you forward again in life based on what's happening. How you're moving forward now may have a shelf life, and it may kick you forward again later, but it's kicking you forward. Maybe that makes sense to you, and like, you know what, maybe that's what I need in life. I get comfortable, I don't want to move. If I've set something up that moves me forward now and it's going to kick me forward later, whether I like it or not, maybe that's what I need in my life. I feel like we're giving that like kind of as a possibility, but also as maybe does that work for you? Just kind of almost like a warning kind of sense, because something here can move forward and you can see the possibility. By being on point with all this energy that I'm pushing forward, if this makes sense to you and this reading is hitting, it's meant to empower you and heal you in the sense of like, you know what, this pattern happens in my life. And you know what, maybe this could actually serve me and keep me from getting stuck. It's the acknowledging that like right now, I like it. Later, there's going to be a moment where I'm going to know it's going to feel uncomfortable. But when it starts kicking in, I know that I can flow with it and just get past it, or I can fight it and struggle with it, but I'll know it'll come. It doesn't mean that when that push forward later comes in that I have to struggle with it. It's just kind of acknowledging it like, oh, yeah, I knew it was going to happen. I remember feeling that myself, using that same analogy. Kind of like, I do think I struggled with it for like about 3-ish months until I was like, you know what, why am I fighting this? I kind of knew this was going to happen. You know, I do, I read my own cards, I read other people's cards. Even though when I read my own cards, I don't really get details, but I get like a very basic outline. Very, very basic. I don't really get details, but I kind of knew something like this was going to happen. I had that intuition that it was going to happen. Why am I fighting it? Why don't I just accept it and move forward with it? And it got easier. I'm not going to say I liked it, but it got easier. And this is something where it's like, you could have this at this point where, all right, I don't like where it is. I can kick it forward. It will have a shelf life. But as long as I'm acknowledging it within myself, I can make peace with that now, and then when it comes around later and I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that shelf life, yeah, it's kind of expiring, I can make peace with it and flow with it. I can choose that. Something to consider. Because what I'm getting is you can kick something forward here. You can. And there's like knowing your power, knowing your gifts, and knowing how to work with your gifts that serve you. This isn't about other people. Other people, you know, what they do and how they do it, that's their business. This is about you, and does this work for you, and does this flow this way for you? I find this interesting. You're Gemini, so a lot of different information comes in at times. Some people are cross-watchers, and I find that interesting because sometimes people are cross-watchers and they're not realizing, like, my brain is a little foggy on this one at the moment. I want to say, is it Saturn? I want to say it's the placement of Saturn talks about your work life. So some people may have only one placement in Gemini, and it could be Saturn. And this whole thing might work out in a work-life scenario for people, and they're like, I'm not a Gemini. But they have that one placement that maybe they don't realize. I've also seen it when they've had the opposite sign, like Sagittarius is your opposite sign, and it could be talking about the same type of thing happening that way as well. I feel like for the people that's going to make sense for it, it'll make sense for it. I'm just saying, if you're a cross-watcher, but this seems to be hitting in a certain part of your life, roll with it. Roll with it. I hope I didn't make this really confusing by doing that, but then again, you're Gemini. You probably understand where I'm going better than I do understand where I'm going. As we keep moving forward, judgment comes in your favor. And I like the version of the Phoenix for you in this one. It's acknowledging that the Phoenix is coming. I'm about to burn bright. I'm going to burn for a while. Doesn't mean that burn bright is a short period. You could burn bright for a while, but it's acknowledging that I will burn bright for a while, but at one point the fuel will be burned up and I will burn out and I will crash to the floor. It's kind of like I've been through it before, I'll go through it again. It's acknowledging it kind of like, yeah, but when I do, I'm going to put myself over some water so when I crash down to the earth, at least I'll plunk in some water. It won't hurt as bad that way, hopefully. Maybe. And then when I start rising again, I can do what I need to do. I don't know how the people are going to feel about that analogy, but it's kind of like when I see the Phoenix, it's like it starts from the ashes, it burns right, burns out, crashes to the ground, starts the whole thing again. But with Gemini, it's kind of like, I know I'm going to burn out. Where am I going to burn out? When I see it, do it like, I can like, it's like when I'm starting to burn bright, and I'm like, yeah, but this is the part where I'm going to burn out at some point. I can bring it down to a safer level, and I can put myself over something that's going to cushion my fall. I'm still going to burn. I'm still going to crash to the ground, but it doesn't have to be that horrible. You can have the foresight for that. So you can use this to your advantage. You're about to hit the moment where you can burn and burn bright by resetting the whole situation and making a choice that other people may not like. They may not like, but maybe it's not for them to like. Because you have this ability to make this change. It's just acknowledging where it's going to go and how it's going to play out for you and getting ahead of it and just embracing it. Like, yeah, I know how this is going to go, but I'm embracing it. And when that comes around, I'll be ready and I'll make it happen again for my benefit. This might be one of those situations also, if this is hitting for you, that it just constantly has this cycle. It just has that Phoenix cycle. The more you make peace with it, the more it goes to your benefit. What you definitely want to be careful of, I'm saying, if this is hitting, it's probably an option to consider to be more, I really think you want to be like aware of it. If it's random, if there's a lot of random energy here, you don't want to like anchor into that randomness. acknowledging it and using it to your benefit, that makes sense. But like depending on it and just kind of feeling like this is your friend, like that, be careful of that. I would acknowledge it. If that's happening, I would acknowledge that also. Because the randomness, the Wheel of Fortune can be very exciting, even though there's benefit and there's detriment, there's good, there's bad, there's left, there's right, whatever you want to say about it. There's this way, there's that way. When it's random, it's hard to make sure it goes to your benefit. You don't want to get too cozy and too warm with this energy, because especially if this is representing a person, if there's a person that comes into this situation that's very random and very unpredictable, it may work for you at certain points, but it won't always work for you, and sometimes it could cause devastation. Be aware of that. With this, they're advising when this next ascent comes in and you start to get you're burning and you're getting ready to burn bright, the option to consider is to like bond with what you really love. Bond with what makes sense to you. Bond with something that will help you move forward, that you don't always have to lead. Make sure you're balanced in what works for you. There's a lot of flavors of Gemini, so whatever works best for you, you want to make sure that that flavor is kind of like more compatible to how you like to live life. If you're somebody who likes to lead and wants to lead, cool, go with that. If you're somebody who's kind of like, well, I don't really like to lead, but I like to be a part of the decision-making process, make sure it balances that way for you. Make sure it balances in a way that suits you, because you can set that up and angle yourself, position yourself in a way that can work to your benefit. Make sure you go that way. Don't embrace the randomness. Situate yourself in a position that serves you. It reminds me of, like, what movie was that? It was one of the Star Wars ones, the prequels, where they're all in that big arena and they have those little boats they sit in. They're not boats, but there's those little pod things they sit in. I just remember the pod would go into the center and then they'd talk and it'd go back to the side. You can position yourself to where you can hear people and speak when you need to, but where you can absorb all the information and make best decisions. Don't connect in a way that like the randomness is your friend. Connect in a way that like I can watch it, but I'm realizing like I need to be careful not to warm up to it, cozy up to it too much, because it will burn you at some point. It's like that is definitely a playing with fire type thing, and it will burn you at some point. If we keep going forward with this, it's all about knowing that this is a cycle. It's all about knowing that this will have a shelf life. This does not have to be a negative thing. Knowing that's going to happen will send you into the night in a way that you were ready and packed to go. You see this person here? They're ready for it. They got a backpack ready to go. I knew the night was coming. I knew I'd have to walk through a dark night over this, but I gathered all my supplies. I was ready. I was gathering my information as I was getting ready to go, and I was prepared. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen, so I was prepared for it. I don't know what's coming through this moon. I don't know what's going to happen throughout this night, but I'm as prepared as possible, and it will give me that energy to like go into that next cycle afterwards, ready to go. You will ascend again, but it's like I don't know how it'll ascend again, but being ready for it and not holding on made it easier for me to do it. It also kind of gives this, if I'm more ready for it and more accepting of it when it comes around the next time, I feel like I'm more of the trailblazer than the trail follower. And when you're the trailblazer, it's easier for you to make your own decisions. So being the trailblazer in that, I don't know how that's going to sound for those who this is going to hit for, but being the trailblazer gives you more options. It's kind of reminding me of the sense of like, at certain times of year, if you're the first one down the trail, all of the berries and fruits and all that stuff are still yet to be picked. You have prime choice. If that path has been beaten down 70 or 80 times, you'll have enough to sustain you, but you won't have prime pick of everything that was there to begin with. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like why I'm saying trailblazer. Hopefully that trailblazer energy makes sense. Are we good? Okay, I'm going to shut this down here. Hope that helps. Thank you for watching. If you'd like a direct reading from me, shoot me an email, jamesforastral@gmail.com. That's James the number 4, astral@gmail.com. If you're interested in the donation information, that's below, same email. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.